First Contact Protocol. The ISS Harbinger cut silently through the darkness of space, its sleek hull reflecting the distant stars as it approached the designated coordinates. Commander Alina Reyes stood on the bridge, her dark eyes scanning the view screen while her fingers tapped rhythmically against the command console. 20 years in Earth's unified Space Force had taught her patience, but something about this mission felt wrong. "Any sign of them, Lieutenant Park?" she asked, her voice calm despite the tension radiating through the bridge. "Nothing yet, Commander," Park replied, his attention fixed on the sensor readings. "But we're exactly where the transmission specified." 3 days earlier, humanity had received its first confirmed extraterrestrial communication, a message broadcast simultaneously to every major communication hub on Earth. The aliens called themselves the Hegemony, a coalition of advanced species that had graciously decided to welcome humanity into their galactic community. The transmission had specified these coordinates for first contact, far enough from Earth to make the diplomats nervous, but close enough to reach within days. "Contact. Multiple vessels dropping out of faster-than-light travel," announced Lieutenant Park, his voice rising with excitement. "Size estimates are, Commander, they're massive. The largest is approximately 3 kilometers in length." Elena straightened her uniform. As Earth's appointed representative, the weight of first contact rested squarely on her shoulders. "Open communications channel," she ordered, "and maintain defensive readiness. Let's not assume their intentions match their pleasant message." The view screen flickered, replacing the image of approaching ships with the face of an alien. The creature had gray-green skin stretched tight over an elongated skull, with 4 multifaceted eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Its mouth was a thin line that didn't move when it spoke, the translated voice emerging instead from something resembling gills along its neck. "Humans," the alien said, its voice rendered in a surprisingly melodious tone by the translation system. "I am Supreme Overseer Drazkal of the Hegemony. Your species has been monitored since you developed primitive spaceflight. We have deemed you sufficiently advanced to join our collective." Elena inclined her head respectfully. "Supreme Overseer, I am Commander Alina Reyes representing Earth and humanity. We are honored by your interest and look forward to peaceful exchange between our peoples." Drazkal made a sound that the translator couldn't interpret, something between a click and a wheeze. "Exchange implies equality, Commander. The Hegemony does not exchange. We incorporate. The terms are simple. Earth will provide 20% of its resources and dismantle all military operations beyond your atmosphere. In return, you receive Hegemony protection and guidance." The bridge fell silent. Alina kept her expression neutral even as her mind raced. This wasn't a diplomatic meeting. It was a thinly veiled threat. "That's a significant request, Overseer," she replied carefully. "Our leadership will need to discuss these terms. Perhaps we could arrange for your representatives to visit Earth for more detailed negotiations." All 4 of Drazkal's eyes narrowed simultaneously. "There are no negotiations, Commander. The terms are fixed. We will return in 7 of your days for your answer, which we expect to be affirmative." The screen went dark without further ceremony. "Well, that was pleasant," muttered Lieutenant Park. "Set course for Earth, maximum speed," Alina ordered, "and encrypt a direct message to Admiral Hastings. Priority Alpha. We need to prepare for the possibility that our new neighbors aren't interested in friendship." The return journey gave Elena time to study the sensor readings they'd gathered on the Hegemony ships. Their technology was advanced, energy signatures unlike anything Earth scientists had encountered before. But there was something puzzling about their weapon systems. For a supposedly dominant galactic power, their offensive capabilities seemed almost predictable. Upon reaching Earth, Alina was immediately ushered into an emergency session of the United Earth Council. Representatives from every nation sat around a massive circular table, their faces grave. "They'd given us a week to surrender," Alina concluded after relaying her encounter, "and I believe their intentions go far beyond the terms they stated." Admiral Hastings, A stern woman with silver hair cropped close to her scalp leaned forward. Commander Rise was able to detect unusual energy patterns, indicating that the hegemony ships were scanning not just the Harbinger but Earth itself. They were conducting deep scans of our resources. They're not interested in partnership, Alina added. They want our planet, our materials, possibly even our people. And they've clearly done this before. But we can't possibly stand against a galactic coalition, argued the representative from the European Federation. Their technology must be centuries beyond ours. Admiral Hastings exchanged a glance with Alina before addressing the council. That might have been true 20 years ago. But what the hegemony doesn't know is that humanity hasn't been sitting idle. With a nod from the council president, Hastings activated a holographic display showing the solar system. Throughout the asteroid belt and beyond Neptune, hundreds of points of light began to glow. Operation Sleeping Giant, Hastings explained. After the Proxima Centauri signals in 2042 suggested intelligent life existed beyond our solar system, we began preparing. Hidden bases throughout the outer solar system, weapons platforms disguised as research stations, an entire fleet constructed in secrecy on the far side of the moon. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Much of this had been classified beyond top secret, known only to a handful of military and government officials. "Are you suggesting we fight?" asked the representative from the African Alliance, her voice incredulous. "I'm suggesting we don't surrender before we've even begun," Alina responded. "The hegemony is powerful, yes, but they're also arrogant. They've dismissed us as primitives without bothering to verify our capabilities." "Commander Rise is right," Admiral Hastings affirmed. "And there's something else. During the encounter, we detected faint subspace transmissions from one of the smaller hegemony vessels. Our linguists are still decoding it, but it appears to be a warning from another species, one that the hegemony conquered centuries ago. They're not a coalition. They're an empire built on subjugated worlds." The council president rose slowly. "If what you're saying is true, we face a choice between fighting for our freedom or living as slaves. I believe the answer is clear." She turned to face the council. All in favor of authorizing defensive measures against the hegemony. The vote was unanimous. For the next 6 days, humanity prepared. Civilian ships were recalled to Earth, military vessels moved into strategic positions, and the hidden fleet was brought to full readiness. When the hegemony returned on the 7th day, they brought twice as many ships as before, clearly expecting capitulation, but prepared for token resistance. Supreme Overseer Draz Call didn't wait for a response before broadcasting his message, not just to the military command, but to every communication device on Earth. "Humans," he began, his translated voice echoing across the planet. "Your integration into the hegemony begins today. Resistance is." The transmission cut off abruptly as Admiral Hastings activated the Global Defense Network. Across Earth, massive electromagnetic pulses surged outward, disrupting the hegemony scanning and communication systems. Simultaneously, the hidden fleet emerged from concealment, their engines flaring as they moved to surround the surprised alien armada. "Supreme Overseer," Alina transmitted from the bridge of the Harbinger, now positioned at the head of Earth's revealed fleet. "Perhaps we should discuss those terms again." Drazkal's face appeared on the view screen, his 4 eyes widened in what Alina interpreted as shock. "Impossible. Your species is primitive, barely capable of traveling between planets." "You might want to reconsider your assessment," Alina replied calmly. "Your ships are currently surrounded, your communications are jammed, and our weapons are locked on your command vessel." She leaned forward slightly. "Now shall we negotiate as equals, or would you prefer a demonstration of these primitive weapons?" For several tense moments, the hegemony fleet remained motionless. Then, unexpectedly, a different alien face appeared on the screen, smaller, with mottled blue skin and large, expressive eyes. "This is Vir Taken of the Lorani people," the new alien said hurriedly, glancing nervously over its shoulder. "I've overridden the Overseer's communications temporarily. Listen carefully, Humans, the hegemony has conquered 17 systems before yours. They will not negotiate. They will feign retreat and return with their main battle fleet. Who are you? Elena asked. A slave, like all non-hegemony species. They use our people as laborers, our worlds as resource depots. The alien's voice grew urgent, but they've never encountered resistance like yours. If you can truly fight them. The transmission cut off abruptly, replaced by static. Moments later, the hegemony fleet began to move, their engines igniting as they retreated from Earth. They're running, Lieutenant Park said incredulously. No, Elena replied, her expression grim. They're regrouping. This was just the diplomatic corps. They'll be back with warships. She turned to face her bridge crew. But now we know something crucial. What's that, Commander? Asked Park. Elena's lips curved into a determined smile. We're not alone in resisting them. And if this Lorani managed to contact us, there may be others who will join us. She tapped her console, opening a channel to Admiral Hastings. Admiral, I believe we need to prepare not just for defense, but for an alliance. The hegemony's empire is built on the backs of enslaved worlds, worlds that might rise up if given the chance. You're talking about taking the fight to them, Hastings observed. I'm talking about liberation, Elena corrected. The hegemony thought they were simply adding another primitive species to their collection. Her eyes hardened. Instead, they just declared war on the most dangerous species in the galaxy, humans who have something worth fighting for. As Earth prepared for the coming storm, a message traveled through hidden channels, passed from one subjugated world to another. The humans resist, and they can win. The war for the galaxy had begun. The unexpected adversary. 6 months after first contact, the war against the hegemony had evolved in ways no one could have predicted. Commander Elena Reyes stood before a gathering unlike any in human history. Representatives from 14 different alien species crowded the conference room aboard the Harbinger, now retrofitted as a mobile command center. Some floated in specialized environmental chambers, others stood on multiple limbs, but all shared the same status. Former slaves of the hegemony, now allies in what had become known as the Galactic Resistance. The hegemony has lost control of the Proxima Centauri system, Elena announced, highlighting a star cluster on the holographic map dominating the center of the room. That makes 7 systems liberated in the past 3 months. Veer Taken, the Lorani who had first warned humanity about the hegemony's true intentions, clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. Their council of overseers is in disarray. They've never faced an insurgency of this magnitude. They've never faced humans before, remarked Admiral Hastings from her position beside Elena, or humans with allies. What had begun as Earth's desperate defense had transformed into a multi-species revolution. When the hegemony returned with their main battle fleet as predicted, they found not just Earth's forces waiting but also saboteurs among their own ranks, enslaved engineers and technicians who had secretly communicated with humanity and chose that moment to disable critical systems. The resulting battle lasted 3 days and ended with the hegemony retreating in disarray, leaving behind damaged ships that revealed crucial intelligence about their technology and tactics. More importantly, it demonstrated to subjugated species across hegemony territory that the seemingly invincible empire could be defeated. The hegemony built their strategy on overwhelming force. Elena explained the assembled aliens. They have relied on superior numbers and firepower for so long they've forgotten how to adapt. But humanity never had that luxury. She zoomed the holographic display to show Earth's solar system. We've spent our entire history fighting each other, forcing us to become innovative, unpredictable. We don't need overwhelming force. We need strategic targets. The alien representatives absorbed this with various gestures of agreement. The Alliance had quickly discovered that human military doctrine was unlike anything in the galaxy, not because it was more advanced, but because it was fundamentally different. Our intelligence networks report that the Hegemony High Command has assembled their entire reserve fleet at the Arcturus stronghold, reported Kezra, a reptilian Dalvarian whose species had been among the first to join the human-led resistance. They planned to crush us with a single, massive assault. Let them try, Alina replied with a confidence that transmitted even across species barriers. Phase 2 begins today. Phase 2 was Alina's brainchild, a strategy that had initially shocked even Admiral Hastings. Instead of consolidating their forces for a traditional defense, the resistance would split into hundreds of small, highly mobile strike teams, each targeting hegemony communication nodes, supply depots, and propaganda centers. The goal wasn't to win battles, but to unravel the empire from within. Remember, we're not just fighting ships, Alina told the assembled representatives as they prepared to return to their respective forces. We're fighting an idea, the belief that dominance equals strength. Show the worlds under hegemony control that there's an alternative. As the alliance members dispersed, Admiral Hastings remained behind with Alina. The hegemony's official broadcasts are calling you the human demon, Hastings noted with a hint of amusement. They've placed a bounty on your head large enough to purchase a small moon. Alina smiled thinly. Good. Let them focus on me while our operations continue. She studied the galactic map, her expression turning serious. What's the status of Project Echo? Ready for deployment, Hastings confirmed. Though I still have reservations. This crosses a line, Alina. They crossed the line when they came to enslave us, Alina replied, her voice hardening. The hegemony understands only dominance, so we'll speak their language until they're ready to hear ours. Project Echo was the most controversial aspect of Phase 2, a psychological warfare campaign that would broadcast the truth about the hegemony throughout their territory. Using the communication technology gleaned from captured ships, combined with human expertise in information warfare, the resistance would hijack the hegemony's own propaganda network to show their subjugated worlds evidence of liberation elsewhere. 2 weeks later, the strategy proved devastatingly effective. As the hegemony fleet gathered for their planned offensive, uprisings erupted across a dozen worlds simultaneously. Suddenly, the Empire found itself fighting on multiple fronts, unable to distinguish resistance fighters from their own increasingly disillusioned subjects. Aboard the hegemony command vessel Indomitable, Supreme Overseer Draz Kal faced the first significant challenge to his authority in 3 centuries of rule. How is this possible? He demanded, his 4 eyes blinking in agitation as reports of defections and rebellions streamed in. They are only humans, barely evolved primates who should be grateful for our guidance. His second-in-command, Overseer Vex Moore, struggled to explain. They fight differently, Supreme One. They avoid our strengths, target our weaknesses. They speak to our subjects, turn them against us with promises of freedom. They lie, Draz Kal hissed. The lesser species need our control. Without the hegemony, there is only chaos. Perhaps, Vexmore ventured cautiously, we underestimated them. Their historical records show constant warfare among themselves. They have more battle experience in their brief civilization than we have accumulated in millennia of peaceful rule. Peaceful rule. The new voice came from a human woman who had appeared on the command center's main screen. Commander Alina Reyes, her face calm but her eyes burning with intensity. Is that what you call enslaving 17 systems? Stripping worlds of resources and reducing their inhabitants to servants? How dare you access this channel? Draz Kal sputtered, his skin flushing a deep orange in anger. Your encryption was impressive, Alina acknowledged. A century ago, it might have stopped us. But you should have studied our history more carefully, Overseer. Humans specialize in solving problems, especially when our survival depends on it. What do you want? Draz Kal demanded, signaling frantically for his technicians to trace the transmission. I want you to understand your mistake, Alina replied. You saw our technology and judged us primitive. You saw our divided planet and thought us weak. But our divisions forced us to become adaptable, and our limited technology made us innovative. Her expression hardened. You declared war on the one species in the galaxy that never stops fighting until they win. The transmission ended, leaving the Hegemony Command Center in silence. Moments later, alarms blared as sensors detected multiple approaching vessels. "The human fleet?" asked Drazkal, already moving toward the tactical display. "No, Supreme One," replied Vex Moore, his voice hollow with disbelief. "These are our ships. From the Proxima Centauri garrison. They're no longer responding to recognition codes." Drazkal stared at the display in growing horror as he realized the truth. The human transmission had been merely a distraction. While Elena Reyes occupied his attention, resistance forces had captured an entire hegemony battle group and turned it against them. The Battle of Arcturus marked the turning point in the war. The hegemony's reserve fleet, caught between the captured battle group and dozens of small, swift human vessels, employing hit-and-run tactics, suffered catastrophic losses. More significantly, the battle was broadcast throughout hegemony space, showing subject worlds that the Empire was not invincible. 3 months later, Drazkal stood in the ornate Hall of Ascendancy on the hegemony throne world, surrounded by the remaining overseers. For the first time in the Empire's history, they had assembled to discuss surrender terms. "We still outnumber them," protested Overseer Zilvac, the youngest of their ruling council. "We can rebuild our fleets, crush these rebellions." "No," Drazkal interrupted, his once commanding voice now weary. "I have studied these humans more carefully since our defeat at Arcturus. Do you know what makes them different from every species we've encountered?" He didn't wait for an answer. "They thrive on challenge. Each time we have escalated this conflict, they have adapted and grown stronger." "Then we must eradicate them completely," suggested another overseer. Drazkal gave a clicking sound that translated as bitter laughter. "We no longer have that capacity. And even if we did," he activated a holographic display showing Earth's solar system. "They've transformed their entire asteroid belt into an automated defense network. Their moon hosts weapon platforms that could shatter a planet. They've constructed things in 6 months that would take us decades." He shook his elongated head. "The humans were never primitive. They were prepared. And we awakened them." The terms of surrender were broadcast from the Harbinger 2 days later. Elena Reyes, now Admiral of the Galactic Resistance Fleet, addressed not just the hegemony leadership, but every world in what had once been their territory. "The hegemony empire ends today," she announced, her voice steady and clear. "In its place, we establish the Galactic Concord, an alliance of free worlds where each species determines its own destiny." She looked directly into the camera, her expression solemn. "Humanity did not seek this conflict. We wished only to live in peace among the stars. But when forced to fight, we did so not just for ourselves, but for all who suffered under tyranny." The terms were remarkably merciful, considering the scale of the conflict. The hegemony species would retain their homeworld and colonies but surrender all military assets. Former subject worlds would receive reparations in the form of resources and technology. A Concord Council with representatives from all species would govern interstellar relations, with decisions requiring majority approval rather than the dictates of a single power. 1 year after first contact, Elena stood on the observation deck of the new Concord headquarters, a massive space station at the borders of what had once been hegemony and human space. Beside her stood Vertaken and Admiral Hastings, watching ships from dozens of worlds coming and going in peaceful commerce. They never understood what they were facing. Vertaken observed. The hegemony believed power came from control. Humans showed the galaxy that true strength comes from freedom. "We showed them something else too," Elena added, her gaze fixed on the stars beyond. "That the most dangerous species in the galaxy isn't the one with the biggest fleet or the most advanced technology." She turned to face her companions, a slight smile on her lips. "It's the one that refuses to surrender, no matter the odds." As news spread throughout the galaxy of humanity's improbable victory, other spacefaring civilizations beyond the former hegemony borders took notice. Some reached out in friendship, eager to establish relations with the species that had toppled an empire. Others observed more cautiously, reassessing their understanding of the seemingly primitive Earth. All of them, however, reached the same conclusion. Declaring war on humanity had been the hegemony's ultimate mistake, one they would not repeat.